Well, welcome back to the DCL Podcast, your podcast to help you and your family cruise a little smarter when the ships are sailing. And I would like to welcome back to our show our co-host all the way down in Los Angeles, California. How you doing today, Chris?
Pretty good, Steve. How are you?
Not too bad. I have to start this with a joke, don't you?
Yeah, I'm sure you've been thinking about it for the last couple of days.
Actually, I just pulled this one up on Twitter. So do you know, and this is going to be kind of based on what we're going to talk about today, but do you know if they allow loud laughing in Hawaii?
I don't know.
Or just aloha.
Oh, God.
That was so bad.
That one was really bad.
You know what one of my favorite things about our show, Chris?
Yeah, I don't know. What is it?
You don't? Well, we get to bring back some just amazing guests that keep coming back. And they go out and they do these amazing travels for us. And I wish...
we get to live vicariously through them.
We do get to live vicariously through them. So welcome back to the show. Chris and the Concierge. You see him on Twitter all the time. He's a lot of fun to talk with and react with. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Not too bad. Thanks so much for taking one for the team and flying over to Hawaii over New Year's Eve for us.
It was tough, but somebody had to do it.
I mean, I also feel like, have you ever done Hawaii over New Year's Eve?
So actually, this is my 8th Hawaii for New Year's Eve.
Whoa!
And this is
I didn't realize that was like a family thing.
So it's instead of my wife and I giving each other presents for Christmas, in 2013 it was freezing cold in California, and when I say freezing cold, it was like not even 40 degrees. So I know for half the country they think I'm a big baby, but we had a week of this freezing temperatures. And we're leading up to Christmas, or we're watching the Christmas parade that Christmas morning, and they had a commercial for their spot on Aulani. And I jokingly told my wife, we should go there in a couple of days. And she goes, do it. My mom will watch the kids. And I literally booked us tickets to go on December 27th to Aulani, and we made it a yearly tradition after that.
You booked it 2 days later? That's
yes.
Amazing. And now it's this annual tradition.
You know how Disney people are. We got to book our fast passes, out. We got to book our dining. I have never booked such a last-minute trip and felt so nervous about going somewhere. And it was so bad, we had to fly to one airport in San Jose and come back to the San Francisco airport and get a taxi to our car to make everything work because it was just so short notice. But we went. We had a great time. And I thought, we're going to do this again. And I ended up buying DVC, and it's been our yearly trip. And this year, it's actually the first trip since February that we had planned that we actually got to do, scheduled. And so we actually added our kids to it because they'd missed out so much stuff this summer.
Right. Okay. So normally it's just you and your wife, but you were like, I think since COVID ruined everything, we'll do this trip as a family trip. Do you stay in the same style room every time? I guess I don't really know what room categories they have at Aulani. So what kind of room did you stay in?
So yeah, normally we have a one-bedroom one, it's my wife and I, and then it has the kitchen area and the bedroom part, and then since we took the kids, we got the 2-bedroom.
Let's kind of go back to that. I know you're a DVC member. Did you buy DVC points in Aulani too?
Yes, I did. So after our first trip in 2013, I kind of looked at it and kind of forgot about it. I ended up buying in 2014 after our second trip there. Okay,
because I knew you owned at the Grand Cal and the Grand Floridian. So as far as booking, then at the 11-month window, no problem. That's been our at least experience at the 11-month window. It's pretty much easy to get whatever you want. So I'm assuming it's the same thing for you.
Yeah, especially with the Ocean View 1-bedroom, 2 bedrooms. They're the smaller rooms go first. Studios always tiny-ish month, 10 month, that 10-month time.
Okay. As far as Aulani goes, before we talk about getting there, do you guys pre-plan anything before you go? You're kind of talking about, booking fast passes. Obviously, there's no fast passes to book at Aulani or anything like that, but is there anything that you guys pre-plan?
Normally, we'll book a cabana for one of the days and maybe one of the lower verandas for one of the days. And then normal year, we'll book some dining reservations, but that wasn't an option this year.
So it wasn't an option. Does that mean that everything had to be in-room dining or to-go dining? How did they handle that?
They have two I call sit-down restaurants, Ama Ama and Makahiki. Ama Ama, unfortunately, I believe they actually fired all the staff. It's not opening until who knows when. And Makahiki is the buffet restaurant, which is open now for dinner. Not a buffet, of course. It's like a price fixed menu. And we ate there once and had actually a really outstanding meal, and there's quite a few choices. And then they have a quick service location called Ula Cafe. Surprisingly enough, they came out with an app in October, and I thought, oh, this app is so you can do mobile ordering. They have no mobile ordering. It's just like you walk in, pick the stuff out like you normally would, which was odd to me. And then they have several other little food locations throughout the property that just kind of walk up and order something.
Did you find yourself eating off property or doing things around Hawaii that weren't, Disney?
So on a normal trip, my wife and I, for this trip, we usually go 4 nights. We usually eat 2 nights on Disney property and 2 nights off property. So this year we just ate an extra night off property. There's a Roy's across the street in a restaurant called Monkey Pod. And then one night we actually, for New Year's Eve, we went into Waikiki and ate at another Roy's. And there's no room service, which that just blows me away with COVID. It's like you can leave the food outside the door, but there's no room service or anything like that either.
So that actually brings me to my first curiosity question, which is, you've done this trip, what did you say, 7 times, 8 times?
Yes.
So what about this trip felt different?
When you first get to the resort, normally you pull up and they greet you outside. They give you a lei. They have water for you, and everything's they'll have a packet with your room keys. You don't have to go check in or anything. This time we pulled up, there's nobody out front. So I go in to check in. Obviously there's plexiglass everywhere. And the first thing I noticed, it was 8:30 in the evening, and I counted 12 Purell machines in the lobby and 6 people. And it's a pretty good-sized lobby. And then we go to check in. It was late, so my wife and daughter went to get something to eat, and I go to check in. I'm the only person there, and they call me right up, and they said, where's the rest of your travel party? I go, well, my wife went to get something to eat. Well, she needs to log on to her Safe Travels Hawaii profile so we can see her clear test. So then I had to get everybody to come to the check-in process. So the check-in process takes quite a bit longer than normal. I mean, usually it's 2 minutes, if that. It was 10 minutes.
Can you explain that to us? What is that Safe Hawaii process? You have to have a certain QR code or a certain pass? What is it like if you want to travel to Hawaii right now?
If you travel to Hawaii, every adult over 18 has to make an account with Safe Travels Hawaii. And once you make that account, you have to put all the information in your flight, when you're coming, where you're staying, why you're going there as a business, leisure. You do that, and then it tells you the places to get the state of Hawaii approved COVID test. You can't just get any COVID test. And when they started this process, CVS Pharmacies was one of the places that did it. So this would work out great for us to have CVS's. Well, with the surge in cases, CVS stopped guaranteeing the results. So we ended up having to go to the San Jose airport, which is about 100 miles away, and taking the test there. So you have to take the test no more than 72 hours before your final departure. So if you're flying from the East Coast and have a stopover in the West Coast, it's from that time is when you have to have no more than 72 hours. So our departure was 10:45. So I got us test schedules for 12:45, roughly 70 hours before our departure. So you take your test. Once you get the negative results, they send it to you in a PDF format. You have to upload it to each person's account on the Safe Travels Hawaii website. And once you do that, they issue you a QR code. So then you go to the airport like normal, and when you land, they're going to want to see your QR code. And you have to have your phone open with a QR code on it to direct you to the correct line to go. Because if you don't have the code, you go somewhere else, and I don't know what happens. So once we did all that, you got cleared to go through, and then you head back to your resort. So nothing's guaranteed, but everyone on that flight didn't have COVID. Between 48 and 72 hours before the flight.
And what airline did you use?
We used United. And ironically enough, we took our COVID test with one of Alaska's partners because it's the only test we can get. So thank you, Steve.
Oh, what does that mean? I don't think I understand that. Are there certain COVID testing companies that align with certain airlines?
Correct. And so they have to be affiliated with the state of Hawaii. And the United one does it. You can do it the morning of your flight, but you have to get to the airport 3 hours early. We were already leaving our house at 6:30 in the morning. We didn't want to leave at 4:30 in the morning. all packed. And if there wasn't a positive test, have to turn around and come back then. So I found at the San Jose airport where Alaska works with something called Carbon Health, and I called them and told my situation. They said no problem, they would do our test.
Interesting.
There's a fee. I think we paid $150 a person for the test.
And are those rapid results, or how do you get the test results so quickly?
They say within 24 hours. So we did it at roughly 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I woke up at 6 o'clock the next morning and we had our results. And I think the email had come like at 2 in the morning.
Okay, so they were quick.
Yeah, they guarantee to have the results in time for you to fly. You could also do a mail-in test, but with the holidays, Christmas being on a Friday and Christmas being on a Thursday, we had to have it to the UPS overnight at 10 in the morning on Saturday. Well, that was too early for us to take the test, so it kind of threw a wrench into the works there. So if you're flying out on a Thursday through Sunday, the mail test is a good option. And I think it's a little cheaper, actually, too. And you do it on a Zoom call.
You get your negative tests. You get to Hawaii. You show them not just at the airport, but you also have to show Aulani. And then from that point on, the test doesn't really matter, right? Because once you're a guest in the hotel and you have your key card and all of that, they're not going to keep verifying that you've had a negative test.
No, that was the last time I had to show any kind of proof. And there is several signs around the resort saying resort guests only. Like they don't want any outsiders there.
Were there other, besides food, was there other things that were closed due to COVID?
I believe the Auntie's Beach House had some kind of limited function. That's where you take the littler kids. And since my kids are older now, that wasn't an issue for us. That was besides Ama Ama and Auntie's Beach House, I don't think anything else was closed. Things were modified. And they weren't doing the Hawaii, the normal luau. I don't think they were doing the luau's, because in the luau area, they were doing characters every night, because that's a stage. So the characters were up on stage, and you would stand like 10 feet in front of the characters. You can get your pictures that way. And then around the resort, they probably removed 2/3 of the beach chairs and put groups of 2 and 3 chairs together and then zip tied those together. So it's pretty funny throughout the day seeing someone think, I'll just grab this chair and pull it over here, and they can't, took the 3 chairs and they can't move it. So the whole resort, everything was very social distance, spaced out. That was one obvious difference. There was a very low crowd there.
So how did the pools work then, Chris? I mean, or just masks in general at the resort? Were people wearing masks? Were you required to wear it as you're walking around the resort, but then once you get to the pool, you could take it off and you didn't have to have it on in the pools?
Correct. So Aulani's official position is once you get to your chair, if you're eating or drinking, you can remove your mask. I saw some people would just leave them off, but there was no one with ever more than 10, 12 feet of them. And then once you got to the pool, you'd remove your mask. So it was, everyone wore their mask when they're supposed to, and it was no big deal. Everyone survived.
And then everything was open as far as the lazy river, the slides, and whatnot.
Yeah, and so it was odd to see, not that many people on the lazy river. When we were there, I think the resort was maybe around 30% capacity.
Wow, so that's kind of, but I think that's kind of typical right now. I know that a lot of the hotels downtown Honolulu are closed still just because they don't have the number of tourists going. So that probably, when we were in Kona, of course this is a month and a half ago now when Kona just opened up, we were the only ones at the hotel. There was absolutely, when I went down to the pool, there was nobody else there. So I guess it doesn't surprise me that the crowds are so low still at Aulani.
Yeah, and there's a Marriott and a Sheraton there, I think. They had a similar sized crowd, but the Four Seasons next door was completely closed. It was odd to see just completely black at night, not one light on.
Yeah, it is kind of odd.
Yeah, I mean, the Four Seasons usually really, especially on New Year's, it's usually at capacity.
So I know that you've flown. Let's go back a little bit. I know that you've flown quite a few times already, going down to Arizona over a couple different other holidays. How safe did you feel it was? I know a lot of people are a little nervous flying these days, much less the longer flights. How safe did you feel on the United flight?
Let me start by saying that I know I don't take travel during this pandemic lightly at all. Some people might from the outside see that. I work 60 to 70 hours a week. I'm around hundreds of people a week, even at 6 feet distance. So when I travel is when I feel the safest, to be honest with you. And so I tell people, I think the planes are the cleanest they've ever been because you're in the industry. They're cleaned after every flight. Then as each person gets on the flight, they're handed an alcohol wipe for them to clean the seat area themselves. And I always take an extra thing of Clorox wipes, and I was doing that before the pandemic. So we wipe everything down really good. You have your mask on. I feel comfortable on a flight.
And I didn't mean to put you under the gun that way whatsoever. Each person has to make that determination as far as, traveling at this time. And I even before the pandemic, I highly recommended that, just as you do, Chris, to wipe down the tables and the armrests, because even before, COVID, that's kind of like one of the areas where the germs tend to gravitate on the planes.
So yeah, and I wasn't, I just wanted to let people know that I'm a germaphobe.
Yeah.
So, and everybody has different levels of what they're comfortable doing. Unfortunately, being a farmer, I've been essential, so I've been at work more than ever. So it's to me, a vacation is when I can put my guard down a little bit, and I'm away from people. It's kind of nice for me.
We've touched on a bunch of different things, kind of jumping over, but how about the character experiences? I know you sent some pictures out on Twitter. Did they advertise who was going to be there and when? And were there lines, or was it pretty easy to go up and do that?
So they would put them on the app. They give you the times, and there was never a line. I would see our balcony, looked right at it, and there'd be like 2 or 3 minutes sometimes where there was nobody there, and then a family would come over and the kids would be super excited because they could spend 5 minutes there, and the characters would be dancing and pointing at them and doing stuff. So it was very low-key.
So they kind of interacted. I know that the stormtroopers would come out and kind of do the same thing at Galaxy's Edge, and my son had a great time kind of interacting with them. And
yeah, Stitch was dressed as Santa one night, and he was having a good time up there, and every time some kids would come over, he would start jumping up and down, doing all kinds of stuff. And the people that did experience it had a great time, because there was no pressure like, hurry up, the next person needs to come see him, because they could see there was no one else there.
And then going back to food, what's your take on the food at Aulani? You guys ate at, why can't I say it now, the quick service, I know, and you guys
Ulu Cafe.
Yeah, and Ulu Cafe, and also Makahiki. What's your take on the food quality there?
I've always enjoyed the food there. Makahiki, I've only eaten at breakfast before. I've never had dinner there because it was always a buffet. It was kind of like, We had an outstanding dinner there. We went there kind of a last-minute type thing, a change in plans. I was kind of a little bummed, and it was one of the best meals we had the whole trip. And Ulu Cafe is just your standard, quick. It's better than quick service. It has, they have different breakfast options. They have like the flatbread with the scrambled eggs and stuff on it, and they have the breakfast platters. And for lunch, they always have that different sandwich every day and different pizzas and stuff. So, it's not cheap, but it's always pretty good food.
So I'm going to put you on the spot, too, because I think and I know you don't drink coffee, but the best coffee in the Walt Disney World bubble around the world, I think, is in Aulani. Did they have the coffee service open in the morning? Did you notice? It's usually over by Ulu Cafe.
Yes, at that little bar right there. My wife went one day, they had some pastries, and she got a cappuccino or something. She always loves going there.
I love their coffee. It's pretty amazing. They actually use a Hawaiian, why can't I say it? Honolulu Coffee Company. So it's actually a really good coffee. So a couple other things I wanted to touch on as we were kind of going through this that you touched on. Let's talk about the cabanas. What do you get with cabanas these days, and where are they located at? I know they've got a couple different options. Which one do you like?
So that's another thing that's also changed through the pandemic. They only have 8 cabanas. 3 used to be adult only because they had the whole adult only pool. Well, in order to spread everybody out, there's no more adult section, so it's all family cabanas now. So 3 of them are back in the adult section, kind of by the spa. 3 are by the coffee place you just mentioned, and 2 of them are there where the play area is and the water for the littler kids. So I had requested one, 11 months ago because I knew it was by the coffee place where there's 3 of them together.
Mm-hmm. Did anything come with it this time other than the cabana itself? Did they offer food or water?
So they give you like 10 waters, a fruit platter, a dessert platter, and then they have the pool, the food service.
Just to clarify, the food service is the only thing not included. If you want to order lunch or something to your cabana, you pay for that.
Correct. And it's your normal type that any hotel would have.
How would you compare a cabana at Aulani to a cabana on Castaway Cay?
Well,
if you could only have one, which one would you choose?
Castaway in a heartbeat.
Okay.
I mean, the cabanas in Aulani, they're nice, but your standard, fabric side, and that's one thing that's different too. All the sides have to be closed now because normally they can be open. You can see through the cabanas to the other people. So it's just the front is open. So it's just your normal fabric-sided cabana, where Castaways are, a little wood shack that's twice the size.
I think they're kind of similar to the cabanas that you see at some of the resorts at Walt Disney World, as far as...
Correct. They're the same as the ones like Grand Floridian has.
Yeah. So, and here's the other question I got as far as crowd. You said it's at 30%. So not this year. This is kind of an atypical year. But the one time we've been to Aulani where I felt like the crowds were really low was around the October timeframe. We went over there right after I did some training in October, which was really nice. But generally, Aulani's pretty busy, especially in the summer. I think a lot of people think that, summertime is going to be maybe a slower time. But Hawaii gets really busy in the summer with the kids off. What's it like in New Year's Eve on that time frame on a normal year?
So in a normal year, the resort's probably at 98% capacity. And they didn't have fireworks this year, which was a bummer. And they'll have fireworks out in the cove, and there'll be, thousands of people out on the beach watching fireworks. So, it's usually one of their busier times. The point charts for DVC, it's also higher points. And we've also been there for spring break and had a very similar experience. And we've also been there the last week of August and had where it was a lot quieter because I think a lot of kids are back in school already.
So another question for you, rental car versus shuttle. I'm assuming you guys always rent a car. Have you ever taken a shuttle to the resort?
So actually, I've never rented a car.
Oh, really?
And I've never taken the shuttle.
Okay.
The first trip, we took a taxi. And if anyone's gone to Hawaii, they're familiar with these minivan taxis that on a good year are not clean. And the first year we went, we actually came home New Year's Day, and I had trouble getting a taxi that morning. So from then on, I found a town car service that had semi-reasonable rates, and I've been using the same person ever since. I'll just text him and say, we're coming to town. We're going to Aulani, blah, blah, blah. And he picks us up and then takes us back. So
okay. Yeah. What's funny is our crew vans that we use in the islands, you see the van on the outside, it looks immaculate, like it's brand new. And then they open up the door and there's like stuffing sticking out of the seats.
Yeah. The first taxi we're in, I was like looking around just thinking, don't touch it. As soon as I got to the hotel, I went and took a shower, I think.
I love it. Yeah, so, I guess one of the things I was going to point out was if you use your DVC points, and if you're not a DVC member, but if you rent DVC points and stay at Aulani, if you get a rental car, then the parking is free. But if you don't, they charge a pretty good penny. I think it was like $30-some a night at one point. I'm not sure what it is.
It's $30 or $40 a night, I believe. I saw something on it.
Yeah, so if you're really thinking about going to Aulani, you're not a DVC member, I'd highly recommend, possibly looking to see if you can rent points and stay that way versus, just paying cash through Aulani itself. But, obviously go do what's best for you. But that is one of the good benefits of either being DVC or using DVC points. So let's go back to the food one more time, too. You went to Roy's and you've been to Monkey Pod before, both great places outside of the resort, well, across the street from the hotel. Roy's is a little bit higher end experience, I believe, but any thoughts between those two?
Yeah, Roy's is a little more expensive, but not outrageously priced, but it's always excellent food. Monkey Pod, they seat a lot more people at Monkey Pod, so you have an easier chance to get in there. And going back to the changes to resort, one thing that is different, that shuttle is not running currently that would take you over to Roy's or the other resorts. And years past, me and my wife usually dressed up for dinner, they would actually take us in a golf cart. They don't even have that as an option either, so we end up having to walk to dinner the first night.
Okay, wow. Have you guys ever eaten at the pizza place over there?
I haven't. My kids have.
Yeah,
they enjoyed it.
We always go there. It's not bad. It's nothing to write home about, but it's decent pizza for being on the road. And if you want to do something different besides getting out of the resort. So, well, I guess since you don't have a car, is there anything that you guys have enjoyed going around the islands outside of the resort itself?
Although we don't have a car, and normally when we take the kids, we'll go to Pearl Harbor and go to the Airplane Museum and do the Missouri. We didn't do that. And every trip, one of the nights, my wife and I will go into Waikiki for dinner, and we'll have the town car guy drive us. And so we've always like to try a new restaurant. And unfortunately, I had like 5 restaurants saved on Open Table app. 2 have gone out of business permanently. 1 hasn't opened back up. High Steakhouse opened back up, and another place. And we actually tried a new Roy's restaurant called 1849 Eating Place that was really good this time.
Where's that located?
It's in Waikiki it's a shopping area, and I just lost the name of it. It's like 3 words because they abbreviate it.
I can edit this part out. That's okay.
It's where the restaurant Strip Steak is also at, and so we've gone there several times.
In which steakhouse is it High's that's your favorite?
Yeah, we've gone to Hyatt Steakhouse several times too.
Yeah, that's like right down the street from our hotel, which is kind of a neat. That's
in fact, Hyatt Steakhouse is right across the street from the shopping center area where this place was at.
Yeah, it's the, I want to call it like the old market or the
International Marketplace.
Yeah, International Marketplace. It used to be like small, little shops, little almost kiosks and everything like that with like kind of little touristy stuff, and they've completely redone it. It's more high end and
all the locals call it IPM. Like, oh, you're going to IPM. Like, yeah, I guess so.
You're making me want to go to Hawaii. It's one state that I've never been to. And as a mega Jurassic Park fan, obviously I would be doing every Jurassic Park tour available to me on my first visit. No,
I can't believe you've been everywhere else, but you haven't been to Hawaii. I mean, it's just, I always joke. People say, how's the weather? I'm like, it's 80 degrees, 365 days a year. I mean, it's just, that's the weather.
Yeah, it's amazing. And they've got that nice island breeze, so it never ever feels super hot, does it?
No.
Have you guys ever done the luau there at Aulani?
We have not done the one at Aulani. We've done the one down the street. I don't remember the name of it, but we've done, we've done a couple luau's. If I don't do another one, I'll be fine with that. They're pretty much the same. Same food, same drinks. Really expensive.
Yeah, definitely expensive. I think it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, maybe, but I do enjoy the story that they have at the luau on Aulani, and the other one is called, man, I'm just not good today, it's something Cove, but I'll figure it out.
It's literally a 5-minute walk from Aulani, and I think they have it in normal times 2-3 times a week.
Yeah, and
Paradise Cove, I think.
Yeah, Paradise Cove. They're both excellent luau's. You can't go wrong with either one of them if you want to do a luau. As a matter of fact, I think they're probably the best two on the island as far as that goes. Well, anything else about your stay at Aulani, Chris?
No, it was just, it was great to get back to a familiar place with a little bit of normalcy during these crazy times. And it was fun. We had a good time. It was a much needed break for my whole family, especially me. I've been crazy at work. So it was nice to be home. They always say welcome home. It was nice to be home again.
And any thoughts about going home? There's no different procedures as far as going home like you have when you go to the islands.
No, I took it upon myself to do a COVID test the day after we got back, and then I took one 3 days later just because I'm at work and I wouldn't want to get anybody sick. So
right.
I just took that upon myself.
So just to kind of like condense this one more time, so you can go to gohawaii.com. That gives you a lot of information about traveling over to the islands. It gives you the travel requirements. It gives you a link to places where you can get your COVID tests that the islands, because there are certain health organizations which they partner with or that they see, and you have to go through one of them as far as your COVID test goes to come to the islands. Obviously, as you were talking about, Chris, you can go to the airports all on the West Coast, wherever the airlines are flying out of. They have that option to go there the day of. As you said, it's pretty expensive, or it can be pretty expensive. I'm assuming that Hawaiian, if you're flying they just started flying out of Orlando and then also out of New York City, would probably have testing there as well. So you can do that. And then once you do that, then you want to go to travel.hawaii.gov. That's where you set up your profile. And then 24 hours prior to leaving, you have to do a health assessment, and you'll get your QR code and get you on your way.
Yeah, I forgot to mention the health assessment. That's just typical. If you had a fever, do you have a cough, you've been around anyone positive, all the normal questions you get every day now in life.
My mom and dad are actually on the plane right now on the way to Hawaii, so I dropped them off at the airport this morning.
And is your thought, Steve, that the reason why they're doing this for Hawaii, the industry, is because it's an island? Like, this obviously wouldn't work in other states because you could just drive over state lines. So
Correct.
It's much harder to contain. But because it's an island, this QR testing thing seems to be working well, right?
I think so. The state of Alaska is doing something similar as well. I mean, Alaska, yes, you can drive up there. You have to go through Canada. I'm not sure how easy that is to do right now, but the state of Alaska is kind of doing the same thing. So
it's interesting.
Yeah.
It could be the future.
Yeah. And one cool thing, and I'm not propping my airline up whatsoever, but one cool thing that Alaska is doing is once you get all that stuff done, they give you a wristband that you can wear, and that when they get off the plane, and I'm going to see how it works for my mom. Supposedly, when you get off in the plane in Honolulu, you're already pre-cleared because they've checked the QR code before you got on the plane, and you don't have to wait in any type of lines once you get to the airports.
Oh, wow. That would be a plus, because luckily we were one of the first people off the plane, but there was 300 people on the plane, and I think they had maybe 15 little desks set up, or little tables, so it probably took 20, 30 minutes to get the whole plane shuffled through there.
And you can imagine if more than one plane showed up at once.
Yeah. we ended up being 6 hours late, so that's a whole nother story, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thought before we finish up today, I know, Chris, you follow along. Well, both Chris's, we all follow along with the cruise industry and everything like that. I thought I'd kind of get your perspective and your thoughts as far as when you think maybe I know that's, a pie in the sky question trying to ask like when are they going to start cruising again. But I was kind of curious what you have booked and what your thoughts are kind of going through 2021. Do you have backup vacations booked just in case, or how are you guys attacking it?
So our first scheduled trip, and this is actually what's been scheduled since opening day, is for April 3rd, I think, for spring break. I don't see that happening. And then our next scheduled trip is a reschedule to do the Greek Isles in June. But I also booked a 4-night on the Dream in June as a backup, thinking maybe it has a more chance of going. And then we have one in September and November. So I'm hoping they start sailing. And if they have to do a COVID test before I get on the ship, I'm fine with that. Whatever they got to do to get me back on the ship, I'm willing to do.
I think that's probably good, booking that 4-night on the Dream. I kind of get the sense, I think everybody kind of gets the sense is those are going to be the first ones to go out of Port Canaveral, probably the Dream and the Fantasy.
A couple months ago, I thought maybe Europe had a better chance of going this summer, but then with their resurgence of cases, so it's a crapshoot at this point, I think.
Yeah, and I think really what's going to depend on a lot of things too, like you said, is how fast the vaccine rolls out in all these different countries as to what you're going to be able to do if the ship can even dock at some of the different places in Europe.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And if the ship does go and it says limited ports, I'm like, well, I'm not doing that. I'll just wait till next year.
Right. The thing is, some American cruise lines have been saying, we're not going to require a COVID vaccine for people to sail on us. We don't think that we should do that. But ports of calls, those are countries that can decide how they want to govern. And they can say, you can't come here unless you're vaccinated, or you can't come here unless you follow X, Y, and Z. So I do think that regardless of the policies that the cruise lines make, you're right that it's possible that there could be limited ports just because some countries will say, yeah, we're not open to the risk, or, we're not going to let people off the ship unless you can prove they've been vaccinated or they have a negative COVID test from the previous 48 hours or something like that.
And I could see the cruise lines doing something like Hawaii is doing, where you got to register the site ahead of time, get your test within 72, 48 hours, get some kind of QR code that that kind of speed things up at the port. And I think that would be a big help. I mean, they could do the rapid testing at the port, but that's tough to do for, 2,000 to 4,000 people in a 4 or 5 hour time frame.
Well, and the FDA has approved an at-home test that gives you results within 15 minutes. I could also see the cruise industry investing in something like that and saying, because the rapid tests are fine, but they still have to be administered, or they still have to go through like some sort of medical professional or whatever. But those rapid tests, they could drop them off at your room. You could take them, give them back to them. Like, I could see those FDA-approved ones, once they get a scalable build of them, I could see that being a part of the cruise industry for a while too.
And I would be all for that. Like I tell people, like Hawaii trip, I'm like, hey, yes, I got on a plane with 300 people, but 48 hours or 72 hours before that plane trip, they all were COVID free. So nothing's guaranteed, but I think it cuts down the risk a little bit.
I want to go back before we close up, Chris, because here's a question I think that a lot of people ask. I hear this, and I've had it on Chad Pennycuffs when we've gone over to My DVC Points and done some shows with him. But people always want to ask, is an ocean view room worth it at Aulani? As far as any thoughts on that, as far as somebody going over there?
I think if you're at Aulani, any room is a great room. But my preference is, I love to get up in the morning. I usually wake up, I'm usually on California time, so I'm outside on the balcony at 6 in the morning. I love looking at the ocean because I live an hour from the ocean, but I don't have a view in the morning to get up and look at the ocean. So that's just something I enjoy, sitting on our balcony, watching the waves break on the rocks out there. But if you're at Aulani, it's like if you're on a cruise. You're on the cruise, no matter what room you're at, you're still there having a great time. But I always use a little more points and get the ocean view.
Yeah, it's not bad if you get the island view either. It's pretty nice to sit out there and look at the kind of the green hills and the palm trees too. So if you can't spring for that ocean view room, the island view rooms are also really nice as well. So I guess one other question.
One thing, at New Year's, if you have an island view, you'll get quite the fireworks show from the locals. We've had a room that had an ocean view but also saw part of the island, and they do fireworks for New Year's like you wouldn't believe.
I've got to send you a link that one of Anawake's friends is over in Hawaii, and it was New Year's Eve over Honolulu this year, and it was just crazy the amount of fireworks going off.
It was insane. We were driving back from dinner, I say at 9 o'clock at night, and I've never seen so many fireworks in my life. And I live in California, and Chris can attest to this in LA too. Fireworks are crazy on 4th of July, and it was nothing compared to that.
Yeah, we have a rooftop that we can go up on here at our house, and you can see the entire San Fernando Valley and the backside of the Griffith Park. And there's literally fireworks 360 here in LA. So, yeah, people have their own. I don't know where they're getting these fireworks because these are definitely not legal. They like shoot up in the air and explode just like a Disney firework. But yeah, people have them, and they can put on quite the show. Now, if only they could figure out how to synchronize them to music. Then we have a Disney show.
What's crazy to me is, and Chris knows in California, all these fireworks, they're illegal here. But everyone goes to Pahrump, Nevada here. I might have been there once or twice in my life. But in Hawaii, they're also illegal. And you're not driving to the state next door to get them. So I don't know how they're getting them in Hawaii.
They got a good black market going on over there, I think. Yeah. Well, I guess before we get out of here, Chris, any thoughts on the Wish? They made the Cinderella statue reveal over Christmas, and I'm sure that we're going to get lots of little tidbits and eventually a big reveal along the way. Any thoughts on the Wish itself?
I was so disappointed with the reveal. We got a statue. I mean, give us a tease of a deck plan, a restaurant, a pool, anything. I was like just completely bummed after that little announcement thing. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to sail on it. I keep hearing that the concierge area is unbelievable. So I'm excited to see it. It's like, Disney, give us something. Give us something to look forward to.
I think they're going to keep on teasing us with just a little tidbit here or there. But I think Chris and Christy and I, we were talking about it on our last show in 2020, where we're pretty excited about the Moana, and hopefully, it seems like there might be a Moana influence with the statue or the figures in the background, as far as whether it's a restaurant, a show, or whatnot.
And I was bummed that they pushed back the opening sailing. I understand COVID, that's why it happened. But if it was going to sail in January, February, March, I was going to say me and my wife can go anytime and just go on it immediately. During the summer, now it's interfering with our other plans with the kids and stuff.
So are you going to be on that first sailing if you can?
I don't think I'd ever go on the first sailing, but I'd go on the second or third.
Okay. I
think the first sailing, there's just too much chaos. That's just my opinion. I've never been on the first sailing, but I'll be happy going the first month.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where we are. Sometime, well, maybe not the first month. I think probably in the first 3 months to a year, I think we'll definitely try and get on. We'll see where it goes from there. Well, as we kind of finish out, Chris, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for all the information on Aulani. Thanks for taking one, as I said, for the team and going over there New Year's Eve. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for having me on again. I always enjoy chatting with you guys.
Definitely. And when you get back from your next Disney trip, and hopefully a Disney cruise here in April, we'll see what happens there. We'll have you back on. We'll talk a little bit more Disney Cruise Line.
Sounds good.
Awesome. All the best, Chris.
Thank you.
Bye.